It all started one evening in late October. I was 9 then. Having tired myself climbing trees, I was skipping stones down by the pond when Mama came in to call me in to dinner. As this water stilled and Mama's reflection formed, there appeared to be 2 of her in the water. Now you may think I should have told her, but even though I was young, I knew that some things were best kept to yourself. I quickly decided this was one of them, and quietly followed Mama to the house, looking back over my shoulder the whole way. Mama always told me I should never walk along the marsh shortcut that led from our town to the town of Brunswick. She told me it was dangerous. She told me I'd get myself killed if I didn't listen to her. Now that didn't make any sense. The marsh shortcut was a wide, sandy path that my buddies took all the time when they went to the store in town. None of them ever got hurt. One day, I asked Pa why Mama was so scared of the marsh path. He set down his axe and looked off into the distance. A girl disappeared in that marsh a long time ago, he said. She was taking the shortcut to the old pond to gather some firewood, and she never came back. They found the ribbon from her hair floating in the water, but they never found her body. Even though my voice cracked as I said it, I protested, "I'm not going to fall into the water like that girl." "That ain't it, son," Pa said. "It's the spirit of the girl. She comes to the marsh some evenings, and well, she sings." Color drained from my face as my arms grew goose-fleshed. "She's a ghost?" I gasped. "Not just a ghost," Pa said. She's kind of like the jack-o'-lantern. After she drowned, her spirit started floating over the marsh at night, singing softly of death and the grave. Then Pa took me inside. He took an old box out of the cupboard. He wound it up with a key. "She's a lonesome spirit, so she tries to lure them into the water with her song," he said. Then Pa opened the box, and it played a song. Pa swallowed hard and continued. "It's not safe to walk that path. If you go there, the ghost will come for you. You must promise to stay away from the marsh." Well, time passed, seasons changed. By the time I was 13 years old, I'd forgotten all about that ghost. The fellows and I rambled around the countryside after our day's work was done. One of those twilights, after cleaning out an old barn, my buddy Jimmy and I were caught in Brunswick after sunset. It was October and the nights were coming quicker. "My pa's gonna be sore at me if I miss dinner," Jimmy said. "We better hurry." Jimmy swerved onto the marsh shortcut, expecting me to follow. I froze and stared after my buddy, torn between speed and safety. I remembered my father's story about the spirit of the marsh. I knew I shouldn't take that shortcut, but I thought with Jimmy with me, I'd be safe. And my parents wouldn't find out if I took it just this once. The wind swished through the marsh grasses, all whisper, whisper, and every blade seemed to dance around me. Without knowing why, I slowed to a walk, and then I stopped. looking up at the moon that was rising above the treetops, making a glittering path across the water. It was the biggest moon I'd ever seen. Suddenly, the air around me grew cold, and my whole body began to shake with chills. Out of the silvery moonlight, there came a childlike figure that floated above the dark water like a will-o-wisp. I gasped, my throat tight with fear. I called to Jimmy just a yard in front of me, but he didn't hear me, and I knew he couldn't see the spirit floating towards us across the marsh. Puffs of freezing air formed in front of my nostrils as the little girl started to sing. I know moonrise, I know starrise, I lay this body down. I walk in the moonlight, I walk in the starlight to lay this body down. And I relaxed into a peaceful glow as lovely pictures floated through my head. I pictured myself as a grown man. I had become rich and famous. I had a fancy house and an expensive car. I had a lovely family. Then I saw Mama in the glow, right there in front of me. She was beaming with pride over my achievements. She beckoned to me to come give her a hug. I hurried forward, splashing through the water that came to my knees, my waist, my chest. "I'm coming, Mama," I called, stretching my strangely heavy arms toward her. Then I was overwhelmed by the stink of the stagnant marsh gases, my mouth filled with sour water as the world went dark. I woke gasping as someone pounded me hard on the chest. I choked and coughed. Then I heard Pa's voice. "Son, you all right? Son." I opened my eyes and saw Jimmy and Pa staring down at me in the shimmering moonlight. It was Jimmy that pulled me out of the swamp, and Pa that forced air back into my lungs. I was soaked to the skin and my whole body trembled with cold and shock. "I saw the little girl in the swamp," I gasped. "She sang to me." Then I lost consciousness again. When I awoke the second time, my eyes were heavy as the world blinked back into focus. I was in my bed, a stack of quilts warming me, and Mama was holding my hand and weeping. When she saw that I was awake, she wiped the tears away. Fire came into her eyes, and she scolded me something fierce for disobeying her and Pa. But then the fire turned back into water, and she hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Who was that girl in the marsh?" I gasped. Mama smoothed the hair on top of my head and sat quietly for so long I thought she hadn't heard my question. Then in a quiet voice she said, "That lost, lonely soul is my little sister. She disappeared in the marsh when we were just children." I told her about the visions I had of the enormous house, my future family. I told her about the glow and the peaceful feeling. I told her how I saw her there and how proud she looked at what I'd done. Then Ma leaned in closer and she stared straight into my eyes. "You must remember this," she whispered. "There is nothing in the world more cunning than a ghost. They will pluck at your fears and appeal to your dreams, but what they create are only illusions, puffs of air and beams of moonlight. Be careful with those visions you saw tonight," she said. "They may never leave you now." Ever since that cold October, I've never heard the whispering of the wind through the grass without thinking of that night, my little aunt's voice, and the swamp water rising all around.